here's how I can fix my life type stuff. So I love them, and everything's free. They're based out of New York. It is like that. Yama. Yes, Understood be having good stuff. I'd be like, okay, I'm learning something every time I'm on here. So yeah.
So let's even start there. Let's take a step back. Okay. I found you, I met you through the Connect.
Yeah, shout out to the Connect and Taylor and them.
Yeah, Nim. But what I have been like really drawn to, I'm always drawn to people who are really about their shit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I love a dreamer, but I love a person with dreams.
We gotta have a dreamer and doers, and I'm working on my doing, but yes. For sure.
Okay, you be doing. Like, you be doing. You wouldn't be here if you ain't been doing. I wouldn't know what you be doing.
I want to do more, for sure.
And you have a platform named Sisters with ADHD. Is the Blossoming one a separate platform?
So, Brains and Blossom is going to be an event that is like Sisters with ADHD presents Brains in Bloom. So I kind of wanted them to live in separate houses in case I wanted to do another event series. But Brains in Bloom is like where we're at now. Eventually going to want to travel with it. So.
Gotcha. Yes, I love that. I love
we coming to Houston. We coming to all the different places. We in your hood. Yeah.
We in your hood. Please go to Oakland, California.
Yes.
And the educator in me also resonates with the educator in you.
Yes, I agree.
So let me reel this back a little bit, which is, this conversation is about neurodivergence.
Yes.
Which is a word that I don't know that a lot of people know, especially if you're not in education.
Yes.
Could you start by talking about what neurodivergence is?
For sure. So neurodivergence, which is not a term that I made up, but it's a term that's used within the community. Neurodivergence, if I had to say it in very layman terms, is any condition, any brain-based condition that deviates from what society has deemed as normal or typical, which are not real places, but anything that deviates from that. So that can include learning differences like dyslexia, dysgraphia, things like that, or it could be like psychological conditions like maybe schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, ADHD, autism. All the things fall under that umbrella. It often gets confused with words like neurodiversity, and neurodiversity is the inclusion of all of those things. Like just a neurodiverse space is one that has neurotypical people as well as those that might be neurodivergent. So neurodivergence is just the celebration or the acceptance of things that deviate from what society says is normal.
I was going to say that idea of normal, right?
It's been ruining my life for a long time, but I'm on to you, normal. You're not even real.
Right?
You're a figment of my imagination.
Because I think both of us, having been in the educational space, we know that, like, to me, education is this space where it provides one option. And there are some aspects that do cater to other ways of learning, right? But for the most part, it's one option. And I think a lot of people feel as though they have to alter themselves to be what we deem as normal. So a lot of people actually don't know that maybe they have neurodivergence in some way or shape or form, because I think it's a spectrum. Like,
we just kind of spend our life not trying to have it and covering up, or what they call masking, right? So yeah, normal really is not a real thing, but I say that loosely too, because somewhere down the line we've learned these boxes that we're supposed to be putting ourselves in. You know what they say, square peg in a round hole, and it's like when you don't quite fit in that round hole, you're like, well, something's different about me.
Yeah.
But there's a fear element, because you're like, well, there's something different about me. I need to start shaving off some of these edges, because I need to reach a level of success. So it becomes like this pressure that you put on yourself, because you're like, well, I gotta go to college. I gotta do these. You know what I mean? Like, we put all this pressure on ourselves to try to attain success. And we live in a capitalist society. It's very rigid. So it's like, we are different, but we're trying to figure out, well, where do we fit into the grand scheme of things? So I guess I say normal is a figment of our imaginations, but it's still a very real experience that we have to have, because when you're not that, there's repercussions. There's questions. People are like, that ain't how you do that. Or you getting tardy, or you getting pink slips because you're running late, or you lost your child. It's all kinds of repercussions when you don't fit into that round hole. So
yes. And to that point, you did not get diagnosed with ADHD until your adulthood.
Ooh, yes, and thank God for it.
The sense of normal had to be this hovering cloud your entire life until you're able to, like.
And what it led to for me was a lot of shame, because like I knew normal wasn't what I was saying to myself. In retrospect, I'm saying normal. I knew something was off. in a good and bad way. Like I knew I knew some of my strengths, but I knew I'm not like that, to the point that I developed a lot of shame for myself and like isolated myself, because I'm like, for me personally, my neurodivergence shows a lot in like how I plan and process things and just organize things. So like have the big idea, can't always connect the steps to get said big idea done. And so like for me, it really manifested in my living space. I'm like, oh, I'm so cluttered, I'm so this. So while I'm a social being and I love talking to people, you can't come to my house though. So eventually you just kind of stay stuck in this isolated space. So to me, trying to attain this normalcy in my life and knowing that something was off but not sure how to put my finger on it or name it led to just this spiral of shame, which leads to depression, which got me to therapy. So that's kind of how that cycle happened. And I know there's a lot of women and men who are experiencing that very same journey.
How did that, you got therapy, you get diagnosed, and then a new world opened up in some
kind of, sort of. You actually go, for me, I went through a grieving process because you're like, once you start learning stuff, you're like, how did y'all not see this?
That's real.
How was it not so obvious that this is what I was dealing with? You know, it is what it is. I grew up, you know, I'm a Black American woman. I grew up in your stereotypical Southern Black home. You know what I mean? So I was disciplined when I couldn't keep my room clean, or if I was running late, or if I would forget things or lose things. But all those were manifestations of my neurodivergent condition. No shade to my parents at all, because they were just doing what they knew to do.
Exactly.
And so you really go through a grieving process, because you're like, well, what if I would have just known this? How would my life have been? Yeah. If I would have had the resources, how could my life have been better or worse? You know, so you really have to kind of reel yourself back into just, I guess, a level of gratitude and not be so caught up in the what ifs and just be like, okay, but what about the right nows? You have the information now, so how can we move forward? Yeah. And people don't understand how access and privilege play a huge role in that. Majority of doctors have autism. People don't know that.
Makes a lot of sense.
Think about it. Like majority of doctors are autistic, and that's why they have to really grapple with their bedside manner, because, you know, stereotypes about autism is like they don't always have that empathy, right? And they just kind of get to the point, this is the news, we're on to the next thing. So they have to teach themselves bedside manner and that empathy and that compassion. But think about it, who becomes a doctor in the grand scheme of things? We got person A and we got person B. Person B knows this about himself. Parent spends all this money on resources, supports, making sure that at school he gets the extra time he needs on assessments, you know, all these things, and so that he can get to this situation. This person has no resources, no knowledge of whatever, and just it's going to be a different path. You can easily end up in jail with the same gifts and the same skill set. So anyways, I kind of rambled there, but yeah.
No, I'm with it. I'm with it.
It's all been very, very eye-opening for me. So yes, after grief, had to come back to gratitude, and then it's just kind of like, now I'm in a space of like constant self-compassion and honestly like radical self-acceptance. Like I'm sorry, can we cuss?
Yes.
Girl, I still be fucking up. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, bitch, I cuss up. So, but yeah, I still be fucking up. Like people think because I have this platform and then I speak about it and that I've done the TED Talk and all these things that I'm like, I have arrived. No. I'm telling y'all this is me. Every day. And at work, I've become very vocal about it, because like, I think people love me as a leader, but then they be seeing the slip up. The ADHD is a very real part of me, and I speak to it because I'm trying to normalize. Yeah, my email gonna be a typo. Yeah. I know I run stuff around here, but you know what I meant. Right. Let's keep it moving. You know, so. Karen. No, yeah, that part. Like, and that's why I'm gonna advocate for that student, because you're isolating him because he talks a lot, but that's his gift. How can you embrace that? Hello. I'll be on it, but yeah. Hello. I try to normalize it as much as possible, even if it's just, if I have to volunteer as tribute.
Okay, there's so many things that you said I want to hit on. Okay. Yeah. Let me go back to number one of the first thing I thought is, you talked about this at your event, and which was a fantastic event, by the way.
Thank you for coming.
Of course. I was like, this is bomb, like, and I'm mad that other educators are not here.
I know, yeah. We'll have another. We'll make sure they know. We'll get the beat out.
And I'm about to talk to my company, hey, there's a coin that needs to be passed for this, because we need all of our educators. Come on. But anyways.
We're gonna sit down and talk about it.
But you talked about that portion of, you can literally end up in jail, right? Because if you choose certain different things and people are still looking at you a certain way, then there is a way in which that could lead you to that direction. Absolutely. And one of the things that I have conversations with educators a lot is the lens that I've always taken it, and it's a much broader lens to be talked about, but the lens I often speak about is the way in which Black males, specifically with ADHD, are taught that they are bad and
hate that word.
Yes, and like you are too much and you need to learn, and you're constantly penalized. And I'm like, we have to have the consideration that teaching a kid that over and over and over again, and then always having to be in the office and never, they're going to create this understanding of themselves because they're young and they're understanding the world and who they are, that I am this thing. And then now I also have these actions that don't perfectly fit in these boxes of these rules, which could easily then manifest me in a space where I don't necessarily want to be in, because it's a mixture of what I've been told about myself repeatedly, and then also, which is coming from a space of the adult's ignorance, right?
Yes.
And then also the actions, and then now I'm in a place that I don't necessarily want to be, right?
And now I'm stuck.
Right? And I feel like that whole experience has to be, to your point, wildly isolating, because it's a sense of like, no one hears me. Like no one's getting, like it's like you're in a box that you can't get out of.
I can see I almost see like a glass box, like see me, hear me, see me, and they're like, look at, and now you're everybody spectating. Like look at that, look how they're acting, look how bad they are. Like, I mean, yeah, that's it. And I see that happen in education so much. Forget education, I see it in society so much. Like
absolutely.
even when people are policing our behaviors and our mannerisms in the workplace, like. I'm gonna be vocal, or maybe no, I'm not gonna smile all the time because I'm processing, I'm thinking through things. Why does she look so mad? Because let me do my thing. Like, I'm not even worried about you. and you're policing how I'm speaking about things. Like, come on. So I think as an educator, I just try to make it my business to offer people an alternative.
Yeah.
It could be that, or it could be this. And I walk away. I be dropping.
Going on about your business.
I'm not saying it is, but it could be this. Or maybe we should try something like this.
Yes.
Like, it's funny, I just had a conversation with somebody today. I have a colleague, and I'll name it. She's a white woman, and I love talking to her because she's also neurodivergent. So we have that's where our commonality is. And so many like beautiful conversations come from her. But we were discussing the isolation of students that we feel are neurodivergent. So whether they've been tested and have like IEPs, like we feel like these students are showing symptoms of something. We won't name it. And how the trend we're seeing across where we work, I'm not gonna name, the places, like the trend we're seeing is that they all have been put on these little like desk islands by themselves. And I was like, well, that's not fair. Like, why shouldn't they be able to collaborate and have conversations and discussions with their peers? But then in that same breath, like you said, can we be really upset at the teacher's ignorance? Because in their mind, they're bad. They are a behavior issue, and all they have for them is go over there because it's too much. So my big girl dream, and I'm jumping, but I will. My big girl dream is to create a school that caters to neurodivergent children.
It's like X-Men.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm watching X-Men over the weekend.
Yes.
I want to create a space, and it's not that other children are not welcome. They will be too, but I really want every educator and every adult in the building to be able to see children outside of their brain-based differences. Like, they can still learn. They are still brilliant. Don't shut them down. Like, I sat next to, so I'm an administrator, so I'm the person coming in doing like classroom observations and stuff, and I happen to sit next to a child who I feel is neurodivergent, clear as day. He's sitting on the island by himself, so I sat at the table with him. And the child has such a brilliant comment. To me, as a teacher, I'd have been like, ooh, light bulb moment, we're gonna build off of that. Like, ooh, great job. And the teacher was like, yeah, whatever. And just was so dismissive of him. And I was just like, what is this doing to this baby? He's only in second grade, but what is that doing to his spirit? But shout out to that student, because he kept saying, you're overlooking me. You're not answering me.
Come on!
You didn't look at my whiteboard. He was on his head, and I was like,
Advocacy.
He's self-advocacy. He said, you didn't look at my board. I said, if you gonna have him in the corner over here, you sure better swing your head to come. And I just, and in my mind, I was like, I have to save children like this, because he's not the only one. That's happening in classrooms across America. And before you know it, these are the same people that we looking at them like, he ain't got no job, because he ain't never been able to manifest he's never been able to see himself fully and wholly
Yes.
in his potential and what he can do. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
anyways, we're all over the place, but
We're fine.
you know, it's just the conversation. But yeah, I see that happening. And I'm like, and it happens with children of color the most.
I remember I had a student who, I think I've said this before on something, I don't know if it was this specifically, but he had I think it was either an IEP or a 504. I don't know if those are the same in here as they are in Cali.
Yes, IEP is like SPED, special education, and 504 is like a different place. It's like if you don't fall under SPED, but you need supports, you go under 504.
Yeah, I don't remember which one he had, but I do know that he had high functioning autism.
Okay.
And I remember being so happy, which is a little bit selfish, but like I taught science, and I taught chemistry.
I was a science teacher too. I didn't know that about you. Okay, yes.
I was a chemistry teacher, so it's very hands-on, very lab-based, very kinesthetic, and it was such a win to teach that class specifically because the way he was able to do labs in that class to like lock in on very set steps that have to be done exactly to like it created this beautiful space because other kids were like, oh my God, like, he's really good. And then that brought other kids to his table that wanted to work with him. And I was balanced because I'm like, not you predatory ones.
Y'all just want his answers, yeah.
But the kids who like were literally excited also about learning.
Yeah.
And so they like this brought him into this communal space with other people in the class. And I watched him come out of his shell through the year. And I was like, this is amazing.
I love that for him and you and those children.
Yay.
But he got to, because he was able to see himself within his talents and his gifts.
Yes.
Now he's a part of a space. And I just feel like if you don't allow children to exercise that, then how do they blossom into the fullest version of themselves and to contribute to society?
Absolutely, because it affected how he went about socializing past that point. Because I remember his mom came to me and was like, he's never going to a school dance ever, and he wants to go to a school dance now, and he has friends that he wants to go to the dance with. And I'm like, what? Like, he ain't never been to the dance? I'm like,
we gotta get him to the dance. Absolutely, we gotta get him to the dance.
We gotta get him to the
I agree.
And he wears a little outfit, and it was like, I say that because of they're just kids. I would call everybody a little outfit. But I just was like, what a vibe. And to your point of your team of X-Men, I just think that there would be a lot of beauty in helping kids develop themselves in that way to then be able to, and what would come from that. Because to your point, completely agree. Most people I know that are, that have these like really honed in, particular focused jobs, completely some form of neurodivergence floating around there, like 100%.
Yep.
So I'm like, what creativity would come from people who are naturally inclined for this, but they also have the space to blossom. And they also have the space to like do the social interaction. I'm like, we would probably forward humanities like
and I remember before I kind of really built Sistas with ADHD, I used to do Twitter spaces, which I don't even know if they have them anymore. X spaces, is that what they're called now? Who knows? And I remember speaking about like, honestly, neurodivergent people have a niche. Like, we have to fulfill a role. And so you almost need to know your gifts so that you know who you are in the space. Like, I'm not saying all of them have the same gift, but there are some commonalities. They're often innovative, they're often creative, depending on your condition, of course. But think about it, people that have schizophrenia, we've said this is a psychological condition that we kind of have demonized a little bit, but maybe they really do have a sixth sense and they sense things that we're not aware of. That's a gift. I don't care what nobody says. If we don't have neurodivergent people, we're all still driving a Ford Model T or Model A or whatever, history lesson. But I'm just saying, like, if we don't have people that are constantly innovating and pushing society forward, then who are we right now? There's a fully electric car available to us
because of this person,
and he's full as neurodivergent.
Absolutely,
he was a neurodivergent person with access to resources. So
that's, oh my gosh, you really are creating X-Men.
That's the campaign I'm on. Like, no, we'll get into. I feel like what I want to say is going to come up later.
Okay.
But
So. And I keep looking back because I'm trying to remember everything because I put a lot of different things.
You had some good questions too.
So, and that was kind of that product thing of like, we praise genius if if that genius is supported, resourced, and that genius lends to a further of capitalism in some way. And it's like, if we could see you use your genius to gain money, will allow that genius to be fantastical in some way. But if that isn't like, if you're not resourced, if that is not your desire, whatever, if it doesn't put you in this high earning space, it's like it's completely demonized.
And even after the high earning space, if you start attacking traditionalisms and customs in America or world at large, if you start attacking, let's keep it like white facing cishet white men, if you start attacking those sacred spaces, they don't give a damn. Look at Kanye. Like, Kanye's a genius through and through, and I'm sorry, he is the neurodivergent poster child, and I love him and appreciate him through all his chaoticness, because I can see it. I'm like, okay, he's manic right now. Okay, when he's in his genius, he's in his autism, like genius flow, like, and I respect that, but I'm like, the minute that he speaks and it attacks what people have normalized as like dominant, they don't want nothing to do with you. So
you're the second person on this show that feels the same way about Kanye, and I completely agree, because if they were a therapist, but I'm of the same way where I can look at him and go, yes, this person is like going through different episodes at different points, and to your point, we can praise him for these one aspects, but then it's like, if you don't fit into this box, we don't know what to do with you. And
honestly, and it's us too. It's us as a community too, being like, Kanye done went too far. Like, we can't have a little compassion and empathy for who he is and how this manifests. But it don't even matter, because Heredity enters the chat, and look at his daughter. I don't know if you've been seeing Northie, but North, that's his daughter. I said, ooh, Kim, you got rid of him. Couldn't get rid of them jeans though. I said, well, that girl got something. I don't know what it is. She's already spoken to her having dyslexia. And oftentimes things like dyslexia, dysgraphia are coexisting conditions to a larger issue. I said issue, bad me. But I'm like, if she has dyslexia, she most likely has another neurodivergent condition. That's the underlying reason. So
we gonna see how she
love it.
flourishes.
Let's keep unfolding. She keep telling my mama off. I love it. She be like, what does she do?
She gonna have them resources.
Yeah, I saw a video. They was like, do you like what your mom does for work? She said, what does she do? Exactly. No.
I did see a clip that somebody said that, I think Kim said that Courtney said that North is her karma or something like that. Or something like that.
That's
like,
hilarious.
In a sense, or like your mirror, or something like these were
the decisions that you made.
You gonna see yourself. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to ask you was, both as a kid, through your experience going through the education system, with like the obvious like thought you have now in being in the education system, and also now, like, if someone is completely unclear of like how ADHD affects how your life operates in some way, could you like speak to what are some of the things that come up?
Just from having ADHD, like, so from my perspective as a child or as an adult woman?
Both. Yes.
Okay, so as far as how ADHD showed up for me as a child, for the most part, I actually was a successful child. I think the first thing people should understand about ADHD is that we have an interest-based nervous system. So typically, what I'm trying to say, so you have an interest-based nervous system, but typically, I can't get my words together.
Okay.
I'm laughing at myself. So interest-based versus, what do regular people have, Torrian? Important space.
Autonomic? Oh, I don't know.
Yes. Okay, so what is the first important thing that I think people should understand is that people have an interest-based nervous system versus an importance-based.
Okay.
So typically people are like, we should do this because this is the next important thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, oh, obviously you should pay your bills on time because that's what you should do.
Yes.
An interest-based nervous system really lives in a space of what we call NCUP, and so it's really an acronym. So things that are new and novel. Got a new boo, I'm into that, right?
Yeah.
Urgency. That's why you see a lot of times people with ADHD wait to the last minute because there's this rush you get of like, it's the urgency, just riding the wave of that. The C would be things that are challenging or like competition. A lot of people with ADHD actually make really good athletes because they like to compete. And then the P would be just things like passion, things that you care about, honestly. And so I think as a child, I had enough structure. I played basketball. So I had enough structure through things like that. I had siblings, and I didn't want to be the sibling with the lowest grade. So I feel like that I kind of made up my own competition in my head, because I'm like, yeah, finna come out on top. Like, not gonna do that. But what reigned true for me was that I lost things a lot. So like I was the girl losing the homework, I was losing the keys and things like that. I was always messy. I always if I was disciplined, I was not a misbehaving child, but if I got disciplined, it was because my room was a mess all the time. And let me see what else. So I think as a child, I kind of could do school enough.
Yeah.
You know, school, I'm sorry, they don't challenge you like that for real. So it's like, look, this is the code. Yeah, this is the system. We figure out a system and we get through. But I think as an adult, especially when I got to college, is when I got exposed, because the structure of parents and people waking you up on time and people telling you where to be was taken from me. So like, while I was a collegiate athlete, a little bit of structure, enough structure was there for me to like not bomb grades. But suddenly, the girl who thought she was super smart, I was struggling because I couldn't keep up with maintaining all the tasks, all the things, it coming from you from every different angle. So I feel like in adulthood, I saw my ADHD manifest as I was still disorganized. That to me still reigns true for me. That's something I still have to constantly like work at. Being late and not quite knowing why. Like, oh, I know what time I have to be there. I have 20 more minutes, but in my mind, that 20 minutes never moves. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I know time is ever going, but like to me, it's just a skewed vision of time. Oh, I have 20 minutes, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But that 20 minutes eventually is gonna become 5. You need to be moving. So I'm fine, I got 2 hours. Like, no, you need to start now. So the skewed sense of time. Another thing is like forgetting. So there's an experience called object permanence. And so this really comes up with babies. So that's why you can play peekaboo with babies, because to a baby's mind, when you cover up your face, you have disappeared to them. They don't know that you're behind your hands. And then you do this and they're like, oh, you're back. So people with ADHD actually live with that phenomenon of object permanence. So like things that are in my immediate like view or that I'm seeing every day, I forget about. So close friends, family relationships, there were people, I wouldn't call my mom, my dad, they'd be like, are you okay? Oh yeah, I'm fine, like I'm up here and this is what we're doing, da-da-da. And they're like, we ain't heard from you in a while. And I'm like, oh, I forgot, like I just wasn't thinking, it's not that I don't love you, I just genuinely wasn't thinking. I was doing all the other things that are in my field of view. So I lost friendships like that, because they're like, she don't never call me, I always gotta call her. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like I'm not doing these things on purpose, but at the time I didn't know that. I thought I was just a really terrible friend. Girl, what else?
Can we go down that road a little bit?
Yeah, you want to talk about friendships?
I want to talk about relationships, and because that is something I feel as though that is a little bit of my blind spot particularly. Okay. So like with students, can nail it, right? Because I've given the information, I see you, but with people who I interact with who may not be diagnosed, there might be things that pop up that I look at as like feeling away, right? So like if I knew somebody had a diagnosis of ADHD or autism, something like, there might be I need to consider that like, that how they process something might be completely different and I should ask for clarity, right? Versus there are times where I do think that I've been in a relationship and been like, bitch, what? And my thing isn't the you haven't called me thing, because I don't personally care about that. But I think there are other aspects. So when you think about your relationships with other people, like what are some things that could be taken the wrong way that are actually just symptoms of ADHD?
I'll never forget texting like all my friends one day, just out the blue. It was one of my urgent moments, like, ooh, do this today. I could text every single one of my friends and apologize for being such a terrible friend. It was just out of nowhere. This wasn't recent, it was like in my 20s. And I'm like, I'm sorry I've been such a bad friend, and I'm gonna do better. And I don't know what made me do that. So first and foremost, they're gonna disappear. I might have 1 or 2 friends that I consistently talk to, because whatever our conversations are about is something that's relevant to my life at that moment.
Yes.
I think it also manifests like relationship-wise, like not going all day and talking to my boo. To them, she don't even thinking about me, and then they don't know. I'm like solving everybody's problems at work, and I'm just not even. I'm not even thinking to stop and check in. So, because that's an importance thing, right? Like that's an importance-based nervous system. But to me, that's not important right now. Like I'm not thinking it's not important. It is important to check in, but like I'm solving problems and doing all the things. I have a bunch of challenges in front of me. Now the day's over and I'm like, hey, what's up? Because I've settled and they're like, I haven't heard from you literally all day at 6 p.m. My bad. So I've gotten pushback on that. A lot of time people be like, I mean, you can't care about me because I ain't heard from you all day. And I'm like, I do care about you. Like why am I being demonized for that? What else? Like
so people can see you as selfish, and that's not really your reality.
Even the selfishness of like, you know, before I get into my next relationship, I require a lot.
Yeah.
And it's just it's just what it is. Like I need supports, I need help. Like, oh, I'm gonna be running late. You're gonna have to lie about the time of the date, and that's sad.
That's real.
It's really sad.
That's real.
I mean, but I got relationship supports that I need. You know what I'm saying? Like when we talk about accommodations, I need accommodations.
Yes.
If the date is at 7. Tell me 6.
Yes.
So we can get there at 7, and it's, you know, it is what it is. So, but a lot of times people can't see you outside of that. Especially being a woman and the gender roles and things that you have to carry. Like people don't want to go into a messy apartment. They're like, well, she don't take care of herself. I'm like, no, I do take care of myself. Like that pile of clothes is not important to me right now. I know I should pick it up. I get it. There'll be a day where I'm like, let me get these clothes, but it's just not that. So I think a lot of times people are just kind of like within their own space, and they have systems that work for them as people who have been living with ADHD. And when someone who does not have that come in, they're like, something's off about you. So I think if you're dealing with somebody that you might consider as neurodivergent, I always tell people assume positive intent. Ask questions. I love how you said, maybe if I just asked, and I just had a conversation with a friend about this the other day. Ask. Because you don't know. And sometimes even just to ask brings things into the field of view of that person that might be neurodivergent, have ADHD, whatever, and they be like, hey, this is important to them. And I also tell my friends who have ADHD that you don't get to use it as a get out of jail free card every time. I got ADHD, that's how I am. No, I have ADHD. So I am asking for some grace and some empathy, but because I have ADHD, I need to be a little bit more aware about this person I care about and what's important to them.
Yes.
So if that means my boo likes to hear from me through the day, set an alarm on your phone and say, text so-and-so. And I'm sorry you got to set an alarm to do it, but you're doing that because that's the support you need, because that's important to them, and you don't want to lose their trust and their love. So it's one of those things where I think conversations, when we talk about communication, communication rule the nation. Come on, Brittny Nation. Hey. You got to talk. Assume positive intent. People want to be good people. People don't want to just be assholes. You know? So that's my spiel there.
That's so true about like that communication aspect, because I look at it as we all are dealing with something, right?
Yes.
So like, I may need, to your point, it's like you may need supports in the sense of like, tell me an earlier time, right? Which is very practical or pragmatic. Like, I may be in a relationship and be like, I got trust issues. So like, I need you to do this a little differently.
Over-communicate with me.
Thank you, because to inhabit each other's space. And to me, that's where kind of still going back to this idea of like normal, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, we all need something.
Nobody's
we just need to understand ourselves enough to communicate to the people in our lives what it is that we need.
And which is why safe spaces are so important in relationships.
Yes.
Like I said this to somebody just the other day, I said I need to feel at home with my person. If I can't feel at home and like fully relaxed, then I can't be with them, because I need to know that when I fuck up, when I make a mistake, or when I have a need, that I'm not gonna be met with judgment. And then shut down, you know? So I just think we have to realize, like you said, everybody's dealing with something, and always assume positive intent. I think everybody's doing the best that they can. Now, some might have a gallon of doing their best they can. They might have a gallon of love and energy to give. Some people have like a shot glass. But everybody's doing the best that they can, and you got to find somebody that you can create a little balance with. So, and I see it a lot with men with ADHD. I have never dated one, I don't think, but I do hear things. And so sometimes I've been hearing some of these comments like, oh yeah, he be forgetting to take out the trash, or he be forgetting it. So to them, they're like, he ain't a man because he don't do these things. I'm like, I think he just forgot.
Right. like, that's a large jump.
Yeah, no, like, I don't even think that is not a man.
Higher manhood over this one bag.
Yeah, like, you know, and I was just like,
sweetheart.
you know, maybe like you just send him a text and say, or say, hey babe, were you gonna wait to take out the trash? Like, just bring it to, let me give you a scenario.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave a light on. Yes. You know, black folks don't play leaving them lights on. That's ADHD. I'm gonna leave a cabinet open. I'm gonna leave a light on. Mm-hmm. That's just that way my brain be going. I'm to the thing, to the thing, the thing. One the other day I walked in my kitchen and I said, damn, all the cabinets are open. I live by myself though, so don't know, you know.
Just running around.
Right, so when I was living with a previous partner of mine, we had kind of conversation. She was like, you don't care about the bills or nothing like that. And I said, what do you mean? She said, you act like the light bill is free, like you just leave lights on, da-da. And I was like, oh, and I had just found out I had ADHD, so I was learning a little bit. And I said, let's have a conversation about that. I do care about the bills because I too pay bills, but I think that I'm naturally going to be bouncing from one thing to another, just naturally. I don't want to be the person that's running up the light bill. I said, so if you see it, I said, instead of building this resentment up from me because you're turning out all these lights after me, imagine that. Dang, she left the light on and you just doing it and you ain't told me nothing. Yeah. So I'm just living my life. And you like this fish, should I wear this light on? So she's like, I'm gonna have to clean up after her. I said, that's not fair to me because you didn't even bring it to my awareness. Yeah. So I was just like, so instead of letting that continue to do that, you build up this resentment. I said, let me know. But it's never what you say, it's how you say it. Mm-hmm. It is, hey babe, were you done in here? That's enough for me to be like, I must have left that light on. Mm-hmm. My black ass got to get up and go turn it off. Like, yeah. But what you did is you brought it to my awareness, and now I'm going to be a little bit more aware of that, and I'm going to double think. I'm going to think twice. Like, did I turn the light off? So I guess it's just small things like that. Like, just be willing to, when we talk about compromise, compromise, I mean, you got to give up on what you think is important to you. Compromise is like, this is important to me. This is important to you. Where do we meet in the middle?
Yes.
So that's just that. I didn't go say, I have ADHD, so I ain't gonna be able to turn the lights on. I said, I have ADHD, so I'm gonna forget sometimes. But when I do, I don't want you to be cleaning up after me. Yeah. I want you to gently remind me.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. I probably still left some on, but she didn't say nothing. So.
On you.
Yeah, you ain't let me know. I know.
And so did you have the experience because, and I think I've heard you talk about this before, but when it comes to like black families and black culture, it's very, ain't nothing wrong with that baby. That statement is like
making me so mad. Like, yeah.
Pivotal
ain't nothing
statement.
wrong with them. Yeah.
So I would love to hear like your experience around that, both with you, but also in the field of education and working with kids. Like, do you feel like that's something that's starting to change over time, or is that an experience that you had specifically? Like, how does that look in the landscape right now?
Well, nobody growing up said nothing about no ADHD, autism, neurodiversity, none of that. It was just like, clean your damn room. I'm gonna beat your ass. That's how that went. But
gotta love black people. The option is always, I'm gonna beat your ass.
I'm gonna beat your ass. I feel so bad for us sometimes, like that. We just get abused, but okay, you know.
Slavery,
whatever.
but okay.
I always, as an educator, I do see children that I know are neurodivergent. I don't know what. I'm not a diagnostician, but I know it's something. And I do try to get parents to know, like, it's just like knowledge is power. I do understand parents not wanting their child to have that second barrier that they have to go through, right? We already have a lot of things working against us. You're already black, you're already woman, you're already this. Ain't nothing wrong with her. And we have to change the way we are speaking about neurodivergence and neurodiversity. No, nothing is wrong with her, but she might have some differences and need some supports to get where she needs to go. She can still get to the destination, but her vehicle might look a little bit different. And there's nothing wrong with that. So when I talk to parents, I'm like, could you consider this? Because let me tell you something. Little Johnny's, let's keep it a buck. White boy Johnny's mom is going to make sure that his IEP is in place, and when he took the test that he failed, were all his accommodations in place. I need people to know that those labels lead to answers and community. That where your child don't have to be suffering in silence. So it's less about, oh, my baby ain't nothing wrong, my baby not sped, and more about, because my child is offered a special education and has a right to a free and appropriate education, you need to make sure that these things are in place for my child. It gives you the tool to advocate for your child, to speak up on behalf of your child, not necessarily dismiss people, not necessarily dismiss them. It is a problem if you let them get a sped label and you don't check in at all. It is a problem if you just say, yeah, they sped and da-da-da-da. You gotta, it's a tool if you let it be.
Absolutely.
And there's been a lot of people using that as a tool, and we have to get with the program. So that's just that. Like, no, nothing is wrong with your child, but your child needs some supports so that they can be successful. And if you know that, I want you to do that. So I do see parents being like, ain't nothing wrong with him. I don't ever say your child has XYZ condition, but I do say, hey, I'm noticing this, this, and this. And it could be a deeper lying issue. Are you seeing these things at home? He don't do that at home with me. And I'll try to bring up an alternate scenario. Like, okay, well, how does he look like when he wakes up in the morning? Does he lose things? Like, I try to give parents some other scenarios. Like, no, he don't talk back to you.
Yes.
Because that's the impulsivity manifesting here. But what does he do at home? Be like, hey, well, that could be something deeper. We can take notes here. I just try to ease in the conversation better, and I always will divulge that I have ADHD, because I think it just immediately creates a bridge of trust for them. I wouldn't even call you if I didn't see myself in your child. Like, well, hey, I have ADHD. I found that as an adult, and I used to suffer with some of these same things. Even if I didn't suffer with what that child is suffering with, I don't mind normalizing my experience so that parent can see, like, I'm that same person at the school that you trust and you admire. I have this condition. So your child's gonna be successful, they're gonna be fine, but you need this tool so you can advocate a little bit better for them. So, which
is beautiful, because I think that parents get caught up in that fear specifically of is my child gonna be okay in the future?
Yes.
And to see somebody be successful, which I very much deem successful, tell me about, hey, there is this aspect that's important, but that doesn't mean that your kid cannot reach whatever level they're needing to reach. But actually, you're getting in the way by not.
The success is more likely to come about if you could just go ahead and get these answers.
Yes.
We just need some answers, baby, and that's okay. But I do see more and more parents of color, Black and brown parents, are allowing their child to have these labels. And I always say labels lead to community. There's a whole community of mothers also raising children with ADHD, autism, all the things. And so if you would just embrace that, you get to see your child in a totally different light, and you get to embrace what their gifts actually are, instead of just being like, don't do that. Instead of being like, okay, this is how he does things. What do I need to do in his environment to make this a better life for him?
Yes.
I mean, the age-old scenario or quote where they talk about when a flower isn't growing, when a plant isn't growing, you don't change the plant, you change the environment that it's in. So I just be like, hey, they just need some supports, but you need to know what they look like so that they're not consistently falling into these cracks. Yeah. My own niece is experiencing, we think she has ADHD. My mom has ADHD, and it's a stepmother, but still, her grandmother has it, her mother has it, obviously she has it. And now her room's starting to look kind of cluttered. She lost the house key the other day, and so people are getting frustrated. I'm like, y'all, she needs to be assessed. Take it from me. I was just like that. Right? There's something bigger going on. She's doing the best she can.
Yes.
So.
Absolutely. And I remember going back to the whole relationship thing. I remember you saying something about sometimes people find people with ADHD to be rude. Is that from that perspective that you were saying of not always responding or whatever, or is it from almost like a bluntness in just the delivery of certain things?
Twofold. I don't know if I'm necessarily blunt, and I'm speaking from my experience. Everybody's experience with ADHD might be different, but what I feel like might get deemed rude is interrupting. Okay. A lot of what people are dealing with ADHD is struggle with executive functioning skills, and so those are those things that can tell you it's your inhibition to hold back. You're very impulsive, so it's this lack of inhibition. So you have this idea, bing, I must say it right now, and I've cut this person off from speaking. I struggle with that at work all the time, and now I have to kind of catch myself my apologies, go ahead and finish your statement. So if you're not able to see that person through that mistake and see it as a mistake and not just they're dismissing your voice, then you're like, they rude, I can't stand her. She always interrupts me when she talks. And that doesn't mean that person with ADHD, should not change or at least try to support themselves better. So with me, I actually mentally, and when we're in the admin meeting, I'm like, first I try to let all 3 people speak, and then I might add. Sometimes I do have the idea, so I go first. But if I've already contributed, I in my mind have like this mental like tally mark, like, okay, they've spoken. Like I have to like, I'm like touching my hand, like I'm still, I'm trying to like, I try to be aware of like how much am I adding into this conversation. Yeah. And then sometimes I'm like, no, I'm taking the lead on this one because I think I have the best idea in the room, but I just try to be aware of like, have you allowed everybody's voice to be heard? Yeah. I have to consciously do it, and then and now I try to read people's faces like, oh, I interrupted them. My apologies, I think I interrupted you. And I just own it, like, and I don't even say it, I don't even apologize anymore. I'll be like, excuse me, finish your thought. Mm-hmm. So I still don't try to shut myself down like, oh, I feel like the apology train, the sorry train leads into the shame train. Mm-hmm. So I just like, finish your statement, and I just catch myself, but I still want to honor your voice. So again, I don't think that people with ADHD or no neurodivergent condition can use it as a get out of jail free card. Mm-hmm. I think part of your growth in your journey, if you are neurodivergent, is to own that there will be things that manifest for you that aren't going to always sit well with people. And if you care about those people or you care about the spaces that you're in, mm-hmm. how can you support yourself that you guys can be on the same page?
Yes. So, look at you, okay. And so then when I first started this conversation, I talk about like, let's also start to think about the future. Mm-hmm. So if you think about the educational landscape and the possibilities of what it could be, right? We're talking about 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. Yeah. When we think about neurodiversity as a whole, and education, which don't actually blend that well together currently. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you think about when you think about how education could expand and do better across that board? Like you talked about your X-Men school. Yeah. But like even if that is a aspect, like when you think about the possibility of how we could go about educating people, mm-hmm. like through the lens of your neurodivergence, but understanding neurodiversity, like what could we do differently? What could we do better?
I think it would be a strengths-based education system.
Okay.
I think we're naturally, and this is all people, whether you're neurodivergent or not, have a natural set of gifts. And I just think that there will be a way for us to recognize those in kids very early. And I think kids expose it in themselves very early, and we shut them down really early. Like I was drawing whole children's books at like 7 years old, like get my manila paper, I would fold it up, and I'd be like, Dad, I drew a whole like little book, and mm-hmm. I would have captions on it. It was just, and it naturally was drawing. How'd you learn how to draw like that? I don't know, I just did. There was no Google. I wasn't looking at no computer to do so. So, but I never was put in an art class. I was never like taught how to formally paint. You get what I'm saying? So I'm like, you have these natural gifts in children. So I first think it would be strengths-based education. Yes, there's a flat underlining like curriculum they need to learn. So I don't think you should dismiss learning your reading, your math, your arithmetic, all that kind of stuff. But I do think that there should be a time of the day where we can really hone in on whatever the gift is. And I think that when you have resources like money, like time, you can pay to pour into your child's gift. But if you don't have those things, how do those children get a chance to hone in on their actual gifts? I was just having a conversation about a student at our school who just flies through all assessments. She ain't taking it. And it's not that, I don't even think that she doesn't care. I think she's already determined, she's already said in her mind, I can't learn. She's already told her mom, like, I can't learn. But I've seen this girl build the most intricate of things with her hands, like whole vehicles like made from like straws, and be like, yeah, and the door opens. And I'm like, clearly craftsmanship, something with her hands is her natural gift. How do we make sure that this girl is exposed to things like engineering and prototyping, and you know what I mean, like, because that's where she's going to be successful. But because of what I know about her and her socioeconomic status, she'll probably never get exposed to that.
That's real.
She probably will never know. You know what I mean? So economically, how is she supposed to get out of? How is her family supposed to elevate? How are they supposed to reach a different class because she couldn't be successful in this box we've put her in? So if I had to paint it my way, like I said, strengths-based education, we're in school less. Mm-hmm. I think children are in school too long. Mm-hmm. I understand that it would have to fit into the scope of the capitalist society. That's why we're in school for 8 hours, because our parents say work for 8 hours.
The future doesn't have to be capitalistic society on my show.
Just let it go, right? Like if I had to
Pulling it all
have
up
my
from the
way, like kids are not in school for 8 hours a day either. And if they are, it is outside, it's learning gardening, it's being aware, it's energy. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, girl, y'all passing kids tardy slips. 3, 4, 5 years old. Why? They didn't drive themselves to school.
It's SEL, it's creativity.
It should be nothing, but I'm so glad that you're
things.
here today. I'm so glad you made it. Why are you handing this child a tardy slip? They're 5.
They have no say
They're
in how
just
they
trying
got
to
here.
get to school.
Right?
Every time I see that, I'm like, that's stupid. I would
So
not be doing
goofy.
that. Like,
So
why are we
goofy.
doing that? So I just want children to have joy. I want them to have peace. I want them to be seen. I want, when they do the things that we said were bad, I want people to see it as like, that's actually a gift. Maybe that child has a gift of speaking and you have to show them how to manage that gift a little bit better, but like, don't isolate them.
Yeah.
How can we say, hey, so-and-so's really good at this and so-and-so's good at this? Like, how can we be a community and collaborate? Like teaching children like, hey, all of us are coming to the table with something. So what can we do to help each other? And then people, just awareness. I think awareness, like I think a lot of times, like we were speaking about earlier, educators' ignorance will really be the demise of a lot of our future because you don't know any better. And then like if you know better, will you challenge yourself to do better?
To do better, to get uncomfortable enough to do better.
To better, like address some biases that you have. They call it ableism. It's just like they can do that. Can they do that? Or are you forcing that upon them? So just like you got racism and all the other isms, they're ableisms. Like how are you seeing people that actually are living with disabilities and how are you creating spaces where they too can thrive? Like how are you accommodating for them in whatever their need is, even if it's an invisible disability? Like, hey, I'm not able to do that like that. For example, don't tell me in person, okay, for myself as a leader, people see me in the hall, they have something to ask of me. Can I meet with you about? You can. But I'm gonna let you know that when I walk away from you, I'm gonna forget this conversation.
Absolutely.
Because I'm gonna bounce to the next thing. So what I need you to do for me, because this is important to you, and if it's important to you, it's important to me. I need you to send me a calendar invite so that I can hold true to whatever it is that we said we were gonna do. Yes. If I don't advocate for myself like that, then I've let you down, and now I'm looking like a bad leader when it wasn't that. Yeah, I did say we could meet Monday at whatever time. I forgot because I went and did 12 other, you know what I mean? So it's just one, me having the knowledge gave me the power and the awareness to advocate for myself so that I can create the accommodation of like, give me the calendar invite so then I can remember, and now we're both happy, you know? So it's so many things. If I had my own world, like y'all would just let people be fucking free.
Come on now.
That's the solution.
Come on now.
We would all be free.
And that talk
I
about.
free all my sons. I get it now, Lauren. If I ruled the world.
I'm like, if I ruled the world.
Yeah, I just did this article and I said, just call me the Harriet Tubman of ADHD. Like, I'm freeing everybody. Like,
yes.
You don't have to be in this prison no more.
Yes,
Open
and
the
that
gates.
self-advocacy is like, in teaching kids self-advocacy, we would also have to teach ourselves how to be accountable for our shit, right? Because to your point, literally that conversation we had where you said a student was like, actually, you looked over me, and that adult, instead of wielding whatever power dynamic of this is my class, and they have to be accountable to say, I did
look over you. Let me see your picture now.
And you know what? Let me come here and let me, you know what I'm saying? So like, it's interesting to me as I watch from my perspective of what I do in education now, as we're trying to develop curriculum around social emotional learning. Advocacy is one of the key pillars. And a lot of our training for our instructors is like, you need to be aware that we're telling kids to advocate for themselves, and sometimes they gonna call you on your shit.
And instead of you seeing it as them calling you out, maybe they're calling you in.
Hello.
Maybe you could embrace that and come closer instead of. But see, I think a lot of times teachers be struggling with the power dynamic, and I don't think that. I'm not saying don't hold your ground. I get it, but like I want you let that go. Y'all are in community. There is nobody above anybody. Like in my classroom, we were all, yes, I am the teacher, but like this is an even playing field when I close this door. It's each one teach one. I'm gonna mess up, y'all gonna mess up, y'all gonna learn from me, I'm gonna learn from y'all. You know, and even if learning from them is just a TikTok dance, like I need teachers to embrace like children are also educators.
Yes.
Like the Bible literally speaks to out of the mouth of babes. Like they be coming with the coldest. I'm like, that's a profound thought. So if educators would embrace the fact that everybody in this space is a learner.
Yes.
So if that baby called you out or spoke or advocated for himself, he really calling you in for you to make a decision that like, hey, I want to change the way I'm thinking about this child.
Yes.
Let me see him differently.
Yes, because
yourself.
you may be a subject matter expert, but to learn how to interact and communicate and commune with people is a constant life learning lesson.
Yes.
So like, you're still here to learn.
And I tell people all the time, like, all human beings have the right to self-determination. Like, you don't get to tell them who they are. They'll tell you who they are and what they need. And that's not up for you to tell them what they need. Yes. So it's just kind of like, it's that savior complex. Like, girl, they know what they need more than you.
That's a whole
They live in this body. This is their experience.
I'm like, that saviorism complex in education system.
Ooh, it's tough, girl. We got y'all. We got y'all.
Okay, so one of the last things I wanted to ask was this concept of the black tax, right? You gotta be faster, stronger, whatever, just to get half as far. When you think about that through the lens of also having ADHD and as a black woman, right? Where you gotta show up, they want you to be perfect, they want you to do all the different things. Like, let me ask this by first saying, did you ever internalize the idea of the black tax? I deeply internalized that, and it led to a lot of perfectionism issues. But is that something you internalize? And if so, how does that play out with also having ADHD? Because perfectionism and those two things would probably clash consistently.
Yeah. ADHD and perfectionism actually go hand in hand. And so what happens is, and yes, I also deal with perfectionism. Even somebody who struggles with ADHD, I don't want people to see that in me, so I'm always like overcompensating. So what would happen, and I think about a previous position that I held, I was just doing everybody's job, solving all the problems. I got it, I can do it, yeah, I'll be there, yeah, I'll help you out, yes, I can be on this committee, yes, I can do that. And I didn't really know how to set boundaries for myself, because I did want to be seen as like, not necessarily number one wasn't what I was for, but I wanted to be seen as competent. I wanted to be seen as somebody who is capable, even if I am having these internal struggles. Like, and I moved up really fast in education. And now it's so funny because people are like, you're ready to be I'm like, I've done a lot and I've already kind of done that job. And I don't even know if I want to do it, right? So what happened was complete burnout, crash and burn. Can't do this anymore. I'm depressed. I'm not leaving the house. And I'm like, what I tell people is like, when you get there, you got to reel yourself back in. And the number one thing that's going to support you is setting a boundary. You can, literally, I did a video about this. ADHD girl, yes, you can solve everybody's problem. You were built for that. You were built to solve the world's problems. You were built to meet challenges. You're built to be an innovator and a creative. But you're not supposed to be solving all of them. Some of them is somebody else's problems to solve. So while you have all the good ideas, you're not obligated to be of service to every single person that is of need. Yeah. And it might feel like you're supposed to, because black women don't know what it's like to not be of service to people. Come on. So yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like we don't know what it's like to be like, no, thank you. I see it play out in my everyday life. They're like, oh, look at this well-spoken black woman who's smart, who can solve a few problems. Let her do it. But I'm not the principal of this school. I don't make that type of money. You know what I mean? Like, now if y'all want to pay me that type of money, we can talk.
We can have a conversation.
But and yes, so it has manifested for me. I still struggle with the black tax because, like, when people say, how were you able to do all that with ADHD? Because I have to. Yeah, I didn't feel like there was another option. We don't got nobody to lean on. Yeah. We literally have to lean on us. And so because of that, I'm going to make it happen. I'm just tired now. So no, I don't want to smile because I'm tired. Because I've been working really hard, and my mom was working really hard, and my grandmother was working really hard. And every black woman that has come before me has worked really hard because we don't know what it's like to not have to work hard. Yeah. So like it's like, yeah, you have ADHD, but somehow you get it to work for you. Because ADHD is a bunch of gifts too. Don't get it twisted. Like, it's some problems, but I see more gifts than I see problems.
Speak to those gifts.
I think about it. When I really learned about heredity, the number one cause of ADHD being heredity, I was like, everybody sees black people in America and they're like, how did they make it this far? Yep. How did they make something out of nothing? People with ADHD are innovators. They're gonna literally make something out of nothing. They're gonna take scraps and make gold. Like, people are eating oxtails and and cuisine and soul food now, and those were the scraps that people gave us, So I just think that some of those gifts are being able to make something out of nothing, being the creator, being somebody who is a communicator, excellent at building community. A lot of times people with ADHD are charismatic, some of the best speakers in the world. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if MLK had ADHD. He was a thinker, he was a reader, he was possibly. So I just feel like when you have ADHD, I'm able to, I guess I just process things differently. I think outside the box just naturally. We'll be in the room, idea. Well, why don't we do it like this? Oh, that's good. And I use it to my advantage. Like, I look at what people, like marketing, like I think about how people might see, it's the jokes. A lot of comedians have ADHD. So I just think that we have a way of making connections that, I'm not saying others don't, they probably do too, but I think it comes very naturally to people who are neurodivergent and have ADHD. So yes, there are some struggles. You gotta learn how to support those, but I think it's actually worked in my favor. And I think that is how in my career I move up. I think that is how I build a space called Sistas with ADHD. It's like, because I'm like, that's just how my brain works. And like, I gotta lean into those gifts and I just find a way to support the shortcomings. They're gonna be there, but like, what can I lean into what I do really well? And then I just truly believe that God, universe, whoever will bring me the supports I need as I continue to go.
Absolutely. I love that. I love ending on what are the gifts, because it's not about looking at it through this lens of like.
Of disability all the time. It is a disability. It's a disability because of where we're asked to function. Like in the world, because y'all have a neurotypical world and y'all want me to act, you want me to function like that. Now, I am unable to do that, and that's where ableism comes in. It's like, I'm gonna be late sometimes. Like I have literally not been late to no job. I'm gonna be late, but I promise you I'm the coldest one. You want me on your team? No. So give your girl give your girl a window of 15 minutes. I'm gonna be here, but like, you can't be penalizing me when my disability actually is a skewed sense of time. That is where the disability comes at. You can't penalize me for not remembering the thing that you taught me verbally when I clearly asked you I need things in writing and reminders. Like now, sometimes I have to make the reminder, but you can't tell me something verbally and think that like, oh, she's just gonna do it. So advocating for yourself, like it's all a part of the process, you know. So
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Because when everybody starts trying to figure out how to make the world a better place, I'm like, come look at our episode, because we talked about it.
Because we talked about ADHD. She on there. She said some stuff.
She already said what needs to be said.
Yes. And,
So, look in your camera. That is working, thank God.
Hey, y'all.
And can you please tell people where to find you?
Absolutely. So my name is Torrian Timms. I can be found on Instagram, TikTok, and all the social medias at Torrian Timms, because that's who I am. My community is called Sistas with ADHD, and while all people can benefit from that space, we do center the experience of Black women with ADHD. So come holler at us, because ain't no hood like sisterhood. And you can find my TED Talk, which is called Ain't No Shame in My Brain. So just Google it up, let me know what you think, and yeah, it goes down in the DM. So if you have questions about your own ADHD journey, feel free to message me. I am working on opening up my coaching practice, because I want to help us all, help all my sisters.
Yay! Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm so glad we were able to pull it off.
We did.
We did it.
Thank you.
Awesome. I enjoyed the conversation.